Well, how are you?
Hey, Aaron Keck, how are you today?
Doing good. What's up? How'd you get through the snow?
I put some skis on. I skied on the black ice and the snow all the way from
Nice.
Chatham County. Actually, let me give my kudos to the folks around Chatham County, because outside of the side streets, the main streets, 15501, right by my house, all of that, really nice. So kudos to those folks for getting out and taking care of it.
Awesome. So, who is our guest on Chatham County Round-Up today?
Well, today I'm honored to someone who I've been wanting to meet, and I called him the chief, but not the chief. He is the publisher and editor of the Chatham News and Record. Ladies and gentlemen, won't you please meet Mr. Bill Horner the third, right?
That's right. Yeah, there are four of us. So you got to get that straight.
That's right. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Aaron?
I'm well, thanks. Well, let's get right to it. We came to talk about news happening in Chatham County, and for one who has affected news in Lee and definitely Chatham County. Tell us what your background, your history is in Chatham County as a publisher and a news guy.
So I'm a part of the new ownership group of the Chatham News and Record, but my own newspaper history goes back, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but 5 decades. So
wow.
My first byline in the Sanford Herald, which was a newspaper my grandfather started in 1930, my first byline was in 1978. And I was in junior high school at the time, and I was a sports writer, and I worked there during the summers, but I graduated from the University of Kansas in 1985 with a degree in journalism. Most of my family actually went to Carolina, but I was kind of the black sheep.
Go Jayhawks, right?
Yeah, I was kind of the black sheep that we went to KU, but
well, everyone good from Carolina started at KU.
yeah, there's a lot.
They got Roy
a lot of
Williams,
times.
Dean Smith. They're very proud of that.
Yeah, I've got some fun Dean Smith stories because he's from Kansas, but. So I started at the Sanford Herald in 1985 and retired in 2016. So I came out of retirement after 2.5 years to work with my partners, Chris Ehrenfeld and Kirk Bradley, to acquire the Chatham News and the Chatham Record from the Resch family. So we closed the acquisition back in November, and we've had a few issues under our belt. We've got a lot of big plans.
And there's a lot of history to the Chatham News and Record from what I hear. Can you tell us about the history of
Sure.
the newspaper?
Yeah, well, the Chatham Record actually dates back to 1878, so it's actually one of the oldest newspapers in North Carolina. Then the Chatham News dates to 1924. And the Resch family, back in 7 or 8 decades ago, actually first became the owners of one of the papers, and they combined the papers back in the 60s, I believe. So actually, there were 2 different newspapers, really the same newspaper, just 2 different covers. And part of what we did with our changes is actually combine the papers. So we call it the Chatham News and Record. If you've seen the newspaper, instead of using the ampersand for the and, we use the plus sign. And part of that is to say, look, this is about a brand, and we're trying to honor the legacy of both the news and the record by bringing our readers and bringing the community more. So we're going to do this plus that. We're doing more with the newspaper than I think has been done before, and we're excited about that.
And as one who lives in Pittsburgh, and as one who still enjoys the tactile sensation of grabbing a newspaper and coffee, and we know that there are changes happening. Tell us about this relaunching, and in that, tell us what you're going to do to reach out to millennials who don't always pick up the paper.
Sure, and that's a big subject that I don't know we've got a lot of time for. But so with the print edition, we're planning to really expand the scope of our storytelling and the reporting. So a newspaper's role is to serve the community, to inform, to challenge, to celebrate everything that the community is all about. So we're working to do that with Chatham, to do it with compelling, engaging reporting and storytelling. We have as our goal and as our mission to be the news source for people in Chatham County. And print, for a lot of people, especially the younger folks you're talking about, is maybe a little bit obsolete. But I believe, and we believe as an ownership group, that doing print right, by telling stories in a compelling way, by presenting stories and information in a way that people can really get into, especially for a weekly newspaper like we are, I think we can do that. I think we can capture readership with print. Now, we also launched the new website. So our first edition was on November 15th, the same day we went live with our new website. The newspaper's old website was really not they didn't do a lot with the website. They had some PDFs of some of the pages, but if you go to chathamnewsrecord.com, it's just chathamnewsrecord.com, you'll see now that we're uploading not just on a weekly basis, the stories that we're reporting in each week's edition, but we're also doing things on a daily basis. We've got a photo gallery. We have a great photographer, Jeff Davis, who's been at the paper for 40 years. There's a lot of things we're doing with the website digitally. We just launched our Twitter feed a couple of weeks ago, our Instagram feed as well. So there's a lot of things that we're doing digitally to try to reach younger folks. We have a lot of other plans. We've got an electronic newsletter that we're going to be starting right after the first of the year. We're talking about a news app. There's just a lot of things we're trying to do digitally to reach folks. You can do a lot of things like that, but if your content is not good, if it's not compelling, if it's not strong, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, there are a million blogs out there. There are a million websites that deal with very specific things. What we're trying to do is really focus on being Chatham-centric, to be really, really strongly local, to focus on what people need to know in Chatham County, not just telling the stories about what has happened, but really being out in front of the news. I'll give you a great example. This week, we have a great story in this week's paper that's going to hit the streets tomorrow morning about teen mental health in Chatham County. It's a story that a lot of people don't know about. The fact that 1 out of 9 Chatham teenagers attempted suicide last year. Now, that's a statistic that came out of the community health assessment that was done last year that people aren't talking about. Well, I think it's important, it's very newsworthy for us to talk about the fact that teens in Chatham are really struggling with a lot of mental health issues with depression, anxiety, and things like that. So what's being done about it? That's our cover story this week about what's being done. And we feature a young student, a 14-year-old girl who goes to one of the schools in Chatham County, about how she has dealt with that very issue. And we also have advice from professionals for teens who are struggling with anxiety, depression, and so forth. So it's that kind of reporting and those kind of stories that we're going to be doing on a regular basis.
Well, you mentioned storytelling there, and I think it's such an important component of news coverage today, because one of the biggest challenges for traditional news outlets, and not just print, but broadcast media as well, radio and TV, is this onslaught of social media, where now when people used to come to the newspaper or the radio or the TV to get their breaking news, to learn about something that they hadn't heard before, they get all that information from Twitter and Facebook and 18 other social media sites before they even begin to go to the traditional media outlets, and that's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, because it frees up the traditional media outlets to spend more of their time focusing on telling the stories behind the breaking news, like with the 1 in 9 statistic, which is just staggering, and it's Chatham, and it's statewide, and it's nationwide.
Well, there's a lot of noise out there when it comes to news and information. I mean, the volume of information that's being produced is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron, you and I were talking earlier. We're roughly the same age. When we were in high school, when we were in college, our news sources were fairly limited. Now it's unlimited. So how do you parse through all that to find out what's important and what matters? And it's difficult, because we can tell people that, hey, this story matters to you, but unless we present it in an effective way, you're not going to be attracted to reading it. So part of what we're trying to do is, we know that we can't be the breaking news source, because there are so many of those out there. We can't bring you the Lakers score. We can't. That's not going to be our job. Our job is going to be reporting what's really key and essential and important for people in Chatham County, and telling the story in an in-depth way. You know, we all know about the 140 characters. Now it's more for Twitter. That's all well and good for people who need that snapshot of information. But for people who need information told in a way that tells you why it matters, not just what the information is, but why the information matters, we're going to be the go-to place for that kind of information.
And everybody needs that, too.
So tell us again, we can find you on a website, we can find you on Twitter. If someone has a story they want to get it to the editor, how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way to be a part of what we're doing is to subscribe. So you can go to our website, chathamnewsrecord.com, and hit the subscribe button. You can check out the website for a lot of information. But what we need the community support. We need people to read, to subscribe to, and advertise in the newspaper. So the best way is to have a print subscription, because that's where the most information is going to be. You can go to the newspaper's website or pick up a copy of the paper, and there's links there to our Instagram and our Twitter feed. And that's the best way, really, is to kind of touch base with us through those different avenues. If you've got some news and information, we have an email address. It's just news@chathamnr.com, news@chathamnr for News Record, news@chathamnr.com. Send story ideas, and we'll certainly respond to them.
Well, you know the street I live on, so I'm going to go ahead and verbally give my subscription right now.
Absolutely, I'll sign you up.
If that's all right. And can we get you to come back sometime in 2019 and keep us up to par as to what's going on with the newspaper in Chatham County, along with on the Chatham County Round-Up?
Yeah, we've got a lot of plans and for the paper, and Chatham County is growing. The thing that we're excited about is this market, the Chatham County market. And so that's what makes the partnership that we're trying to have with the community make sense, because as Chatham County grows and Chatham County changes, we want to be there to tell that story and to report on why it matters and why it's important to folks. So I'd love to come back and talk about that, and also about there's a lot of plans that we have that we've not even touched on today in terms of what we want to do, even just digitally. So I'd love to come back and do that.
Well, we thought the big story was Mac Brown coming out of retirement, but now we realize that the even bigger story is Bill Horner III, we may call him B3, came out of retirement to lead the charge for the Chatham News Record, and we're very happy about that, and we look forward to you coming back, all right?
Right, I'd love to.
Aaron, thank you so much. Bill, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was the Chatham County Roundup. Get the full archive on our website, chapelboro.com, or you can go to theaaronkeckshow.com and get the full archive there as well. 455, Hometown Hero now.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got it in.